mind is a terrible thing to waste. The correlation between multiple concussions, depression, and the early onset of Alzheimer's. Hi, I'm Peyton Brooks. I attended Western University where I received my undergraduate degree in athletic coaching education in 2009. While working towards my degree, I was a 5-year athlete in 2 different sports. 4 years as a member of the swim team and my 5th year as a member of the football team. I am currently a graduate assistant with the Mountaineer Athletic Club, which is the fundraising arm of WU Athletic Department, while working towards my master's degree in athletic coaching education. This webinar is geared towards youth and high school level coaches. Although most of the information I will cover is based on studies done of professional level athletes, the information can be used to educate yourselves as coaches and also your athletes. The average football player throughout a season can receive 1,400 blows to the head, an average of 6.3 impacts per practice and 14.3 impacts per game. Concussions leave lesions on the brain which result in biochemical changes, including an increase in excitatory neurotransmitters. This has been implicated in neuron loss and cell death. The brain loses regulation of its blood flow, and in this phase of recovery, a second impact could be catastrophic. A 6-year study on the NFL found that 52% of its players who suffered concussions returned to play that day. Kim Kowalski and a select group of researchers put together a questionnaire to base the research off of. This questionnaire was completed by 2,552 retired athletes, which gave them a return rate of 70%. This is an unusually high return rate on questionnaire research, which provides a strong argument to support the validity of their findings. Astonishingly, 1,513 athletes, 60.7%, reported at least one concussion throughout their career. 884 athletes reported having 1 or 2 concussions, and 595 reported 3 or more concussions throughout their career. I believe that these numbers could be skewed quite a bit due to the lack of identification of concussion when these players played in the NFL. 269 athletes reported they have been diagnosed with clinical depression throughout their life. This number again could be much higher, considering many of these athletes probably did not seek out professional help, which most likely would have led to them being diagnosed with clinical depression. Which could have been led to more athletes being diagnosed with clinical depression. This chart represents the dynamic change in correlation between the amount of concussion a player suffered in his career to the percent in which they reported to be diagnosed with clinical depression. As you can see, there's a dramatic jump between athletes with 1 or 2 concussions to athletes who suffered 3+ concussions in their career. This shows that players with multiple concussions are at a much higher risk. Andre Waters is a great example of why we as coaches have to take concussion very seriously. He lost his battle with depression in 2007 by committing suicide. Doctors from the University of Pittsburgh found that Waters' brain was equivalent of that of an 85-year-old man's. And there were also characteristics in his autopsy that he was in early stages of Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, Waters was only 44 years old at the time of his death. Alzheimer's is a term we generally associate with senior citizens and signs of aging, but studies have begun to find links to multiple concussions in the early onset of Alzheimer's. A study conducted of 100 active and retired NFL players found overall decreased cerebral perfusion, a higher incidence of depression, obesity, memory loss, and attention problems compared to the general public. A study done in 2005 found that former players who have suffered from 3 or more concussions are 5 times more likely to have cognitive impairment and 3 times more likely to have significant memory problems than other players who had no history of concussion. Larry Morris is a prime example of a retired player living with the long-term effects of a career littered with multiple concussions. Morris is now 78 and began to show signs more dramatic case is that of Ted Johnson, who believes he had suffered over 30 concussions during his career. At the age of 34, he was already beginning to show signs of early dementia and the onset of Alzheimer's. He still battles today symptoms of post-concussion syndrome, which include depression, dizziness, excessive drowsiness, fatigue, irritability, memory loss, poor concentration, and ringing in the ears, and acute sensitivity to noise. A truly unique case is that of John Mackey. Unfortunately, the NFL has become Mackey's only link to reality, which his wife now has to use to get him to take care of himself and his personal hygiene. Mackey has a note posted on his mirror that reads, "The NFL said every morning and night, brush your teeth, wash your face, and every night take a shower," which is forged with the signature of Paul Tagliabue, which was the commissioner when John Mackey played in the NFL. Football has created an environment where athletes are expected to work through pain and injury. This is where we need to see a shift in the environment geared towards concussion. Hopefully through this presentation, I have opened your eyes to the severity of concussion and the long-term effects that it can have on an athlete's brain. In closing, if the culture of football can change its outlook on concussion, I believe we will begin to see a major decrease in the amount of athletes that suffer from multiple concussion, because it will be more acceptable for these athletes to take the time to heal before returning to play. Thank you.